Hi, I'm Elaine LaLanne, and I just gave away the 2018 Jack LaLanne Idea Innovation Award here at the Idea Convention to Chris and Heidi Powell, a dynamic duo. You've seen them on ABC's Extreme Weight Loss Program. In 1936, people thought exercise was nuts. Crackpot. They called Jack a crackpot and a charlatan. Somebody's charging money in Oakland, California for people to come out and work out in a gym and work out with weights. That was crazy. That was crazy thinking. People would get muscle bound. They're not going to. That was the consensus in those days.
And especially for women working out.
A woman working out, they'd get muscles like a man. I remember Jack saying to me and to his audiences that he would lecture to, he would say, "You do not get muscles like a man. The more you exercise, the more you work out with the weights, the more feminine you become. The more a man exercises, the more manly he becomes." You know, in those days, Jack called his gym a physical culture studio. And now, of course, they're called the spas. But in 1951, when Jack started on television, I was on television early in the 1949 and 50. And I had him on as an interview from Oakland, California. This guy could do push-ups for your whole show. Well, we thought that was pretty neat for an hour and a half to do push-ups. So we'd pan over to them, and then about a week later, he was on ABC. I was on ABC. And about a week later, he was on the Art Baker's national show called You Asked For It. So, and then at about the same time, he started his show on ABC in San Francisco, which was a local show. And that's when he became popular, because he got to the audience. He got to the people because they had one camera on him. And when they had one camera on him, he could just get right, like you and I talking. And so that's how he started. And he had a show earlier in the morning, was a kid's show. And he'd say, "Go get your mommy and daddy and bring them over to the television, and I'll do a trick for you. I'll blow up my muscle." And he'd go and blow up his muscle. And the kids would run in and wake up their parents, or they would get their parents to come to the television, and that's how he started.
His mother took Jack when he was very young to Dr. Breck's lecture in Berkeley. That time he was eating sugar. He wasn't really healthy, because when you look at the images, the pictures, you would think Jack LaLanne was born strong and healthy, but he really dedicated his life to master the way of life he lived.
You would think that Jack LaLanne would be healthy all his life, but he really was an unhealthy child until he was 14 and a half years old. And he had dropped out of school for 6 months because of ill health. And his neighbor, Mrs. Joy, turned out to be a joy. And she suggested to Mother LaLanne, his mother, that she take him down to the Oakland City Women's Club. This lecturer was speaking down there. He was talking about health and how to get healthy. So reluctantly, Jack went with his mother. He had arch supports, boils and pimples on his face, glasses. What he says, I was a total wreck. And he said, we walked into this auditorium, and the people were all over the place. There was not one seat. And we turned around to go out, and the lecturer said, "Little boy, Mama, you come right up here on the stage. Ushers, bring 2 seats." And they walked up on that stage, and Jack says, "I've never been so humiliated in all my life." But there was one thing that he said, "I don't care what your age is. I don't care what your physical condition is. you can be reborn again. And that changed Jack's life forever. He joined the local YMCA, started wrestling with the wrestling coach. Do I remember the first date? Oh, I do. I remember the first date very well. When I was sort of reluctant to date him because I thought he was, well, I was one of the people who thought he was a muscle man, and so I thought, well, I don't know. My girlfriend went out with him for lunch, and I thought, well, she can go to lunch with him. If he asks me again, maybe I'll go out with him, which I did. And our first date was, we were going to a restaurant called, I can't remember the name of the restaurant, but anyway, it was in San Francisco. It was a brand new restaurant. And it was, our reservation was at, let's say 7 o'clock. But it wasn't ready for us. So we went next door. And next door was a cafe called the Black Cat Cafe, I think it was called. And the pianist said, Jack, come on over and sing a song. So we went over to the piano bar, and he sang to me, because you're mine, da-da-da-dee-da-da. Oh my gosh, he sings too. Because we'd already danced at a company party, and I thought, oh, he's really a good dancer. And when he sang, I said, oh, sings too. And so I was getting impressed. And then that was it. I thought, well, now we had this conversation. I said, he's smart. I said, I fell in love with his brain, not his brawn. Jack started juicing after he met Paul. Paul Bragg was the person that was the lecturer. And he started juicing after that because Paul was and in those days, remember, they had presses, you know, they would have to press the juice down. And that's when he first started juicing. And so he juiced all his life. And I remember we've had every kind of a juicer that ever came out. And juicers started coming out in the 50s and 60s. But this first juicer was about this big, huge. And he brought me over to see his juicer, and he was going to give me, I've never had juice in my life. And he gave me a glass of juice. It was carrot and celery and apple. I thought, oh my gosh, I didn't know carrots were so sweet. It wasn't the, and carrot, if you just do carrots and celery, it's sweet. So I was very impressed. But the juicer was a commercial juicer. It's really huge.
You've been married for 53 years.
Yes.
What is the key to successful and happy marriage?
The key to success and happiness in a marriage is, first of all, you have to be friends. If you're not friends, you know, you have to have you never get mad at your friend, you know. You just, your friend is your friend forever. And he's my friend forever. So he was not only my husband, but he was my friend, and I think that's what, if you have a friendship with your husband, and you like to do the same things. Now, I was very independent. He was very independent. He did what he wanted to do. I did what I wanted to do, you know. So, and it was a good relationship.